Today, the biggest news comes from the Vovchansk direction. Here, Russians attempted to advance near Vovchansk to widen their bridgehead and consolidate it. However, what followed was a quick Ukrainian counterattack right into the Russian flank, decapitating the Russian advance before it gained momentum. Ukrainian forces collapsed the Russian flank by mounting a successful counterattack west of, pushing back the Russians approximately 3 kilometers, or more than 1/3 of the 8 kilometers Russia managed to advance from the border in 2 years. The Ukrainian counterattack was preceded by Russian assaults in Vovchansk, where they attempted to break through the defenses, trying to take the remaining parts of the town under their control. Neighboring Russian units were also mounting assaults east of Vovchansk towards Vovchansky, Kultori, and Zebin. Simultaneously, the Russians actively tried to infiltrate southwest of Vovchansk through the forest into Karavska and amass enough forces for further advance. As a result of this, the Russians managed to expand the grey zone near Sinelnikova and Vilcha, which are the next settlements south, although these villages remain contested as Ukrainian forces are still present there. The Russians have multiple advantages in this sector, with their best drone unit, Rubicon, which was disrupting the Ukrainian logistics to Vovchansk, making it difficult to maintain the defense of the town and the surrounding area. Russian drone operators also targeted their Ukrainian counterparts to prevent them from effectively supporting the infantry forces, which suffer from the lack of well-prepared fortifications in the sector, as they could not be constructed so close to the border. As a result, Ukrainian forces had to rely on defending settlements, which are also difficult to hold due to their size and proximity to the border. Moreover, dense local forests favored the Russian infiltration tactics because they provided good cover. But despite these advantages, the Russian attacks failed because they did not have sufficient forces in the sector to exploit the advantage. With approximately 8,000 soldiers, the Russian command was unable to maintain the high attrition rate of the infiltration tactics. If we take a look at the topographic map, we can see how Ukrainian forces used their advantage by utilizing the high ground to provide precise mortar and artillery cover for their advancing forces. The Ukrainians were also exploiting the dense forest areas as cover to advance deep into Russia's flank and regain control over Pryipka. This allowed them to advance further along the Severky Donetsk River towards Selnikov. At the same time, other units pushed forward along the second attack vector from the other side to clear Liman and Sahelny from Russian infiltrators. The idea was to encircle the remaining Russian units inside the forested area and eliminate their bridgehead over the river. As a result of the counterattack, the Ukrainian armed forces regained approximately 15 square kilometers, while clearing operations are ongoing east of the forest. To counter this development, a Russian assault group was sent to infiltrate Pryipka, as confirmed by geolocated footage from the area. Unfortunately for the Russians, a heavy Baba Yaga bomber drone of Ukraine's Achilles Brigade patrolled the area with a thermal camera and spotted them. The Russians were subsequently struck with drone-dropped grenades, which prompted them to immediately stop their assault and surrender, with 4 soldiers emerging one by one with their hands raised, confirming their helpless situation after the Ukrainians collapsed Russia's flank. These regained positions will allow the Ukrainians to advance further inside the forest, consolidating them and using it as cover against Russian drone activity. At the same time, the river gives them protection from the flank to move further north and clear the remaining enemy positions. This will also allow the Ukrainians to fully clear the villages south of Chansk and deny the opportunity for the Russians to infiltrate and gather forces for a larger push southward. Overall, Russian forces tried to expand their presence near Vovchansk but overstretched themselves, which allowed the Ukrainians to collapse their flank. This sector is currently not regarded as a priority by the Russian command, which means Ukraine can exploit the lack of reinforcement. Combined with the quick collapse, this nullifies all their efforts in the last week, turning things back to the initial stage. Without a sufficient number of forces redirected to support these efforts, the front line here will remain static, with 0 Russian chances of nearing Khark. In the broader operational context, this development highlights a recurring pattern in the conflict, where localized tactical gains by Russian forces are often undermined by insufficient reserves and an inability to rapidly reinforce breakthroughs, while Ukrainian forces continue to demonstrate flexibility in launching timely counterattacks that exploit overextension. Additionally, the increasing role of drone warfare on both sides is shaping the battlefield dynamics, as reconnaissance and strike capabilities allow for rapid detection and neutralization of advancing units, making large-scale maneuvers more difficult to sustain without heavy losses. If this trend continues, the fighting in this sector is likely to remain characterized by small, incremental advances, frequent counterattacks, and a heavy reliance on artillery and drone support rather than decisive breakthroughs.